Hello everyone, James here again, and today I want to talk about the return of touring. Not just live performances, but full-on touring and the 5 ways we can get there. You don't need another video or news story to let you know that the coronavirus impact on the music business continues to this day, and as of right now, it's near the end of June, so if you're watching this in the future, just know we're still in the thick of it. But as it stands, the music industry doesn't know when touring is going to resume. And there are a few artists starting to perform in certain states and in certain regions, but touring as we all know it and recognize it is still a long ways off. But our team has given it a lot of thought, and we came up with 5 solutions to the current touring crisis that we could see implemented in the months ahead. Now, the first and easiest solution would be a vaccine, though of course there's nothing easy about vaccines at all, because vaccines take time and money to develop. And even once we have one, once one of the hundreds of tests happening around the world right now proves successful and passes all inspections, we still have to produce billions of vials of this vaccine to be given to people all around the world, and it has to be distributed and made easily available. And then people actually have to go out and get vaccinated. Of course, not everyone will get vaccinated. Some will choose to abstain, and that is perfectly fine. That is their right. But it's going to take time for that to get around the world, and when that happens, people will start to be more comfortable going out in public. But until then, there's going to be a lot of fears and concerns about getting sick. Now, obviously, that doesn't apply to everyone, as there are shows happening already in parts of the world that have huge turnouts. But the vast majority of people are still pretty nervous about being in crowds, and that's okay. The second way that touring can resume is already happening, but it's not something that we can easily scale for artists from all walks of life. That would be drive-in tours. Now, you've probably heard about these, or maybe you've even attended one, and they're pretty cool. You pay a premium price for the people in your car to get access to a drive-in theater where a concert is happening. For example, I recently saw Mark Rebele. We paid about $150 for 3 people to arrive in one car and attend the show. We had to wear masks anytime we were outside the vehicle, and we didn't really need to interact with anybody other than concession stands vendors to enjoy the experience. All in all, I would say it was a pretty good time. However, even though Mark was there and he was performing his music, we were still listening to that music through the car stereo. And while we could dance around the vehicle if we wanted, or get out and kind of stretch our arms and legs, it didn't really have the engagement aspect that most live music does that makes it so special. It really felt like we were just paying a lot of money to watch a concert performance that, while we could see parts of it, it was still just not the same thing. And not everyone can do it. It costs a lot of money to rent a drive-in theater, not to mention use the technology to broadcast your show in real time. And not everyone can sell a bunch of tickets at $100 a pop or more. Now, big artists can do this. We've seen Garth Brooks sell over 50,000 tickets to a live stream event that's going to happen in drive-in theaters. And Live Nation has recently announced a series of drive-in concerts that will be happening at amphitheaters. But smaller artists and even most mid-level artists, this is just not a solution that works. The third solution to touring would be to accept our current predicament. So we know that if we want to have an indoor event, we have to be socially distanced. And we've seen photos, and we've even posted a video on this channel about what that looks like. Venues remove seats if they're a theater, or they just make circles on the ground to kind of indicate where each individual party can sit or stand, or however they attend the concert. Now, this will work in theory, but again, it requires a premium be set at ticket prices. So maybe you can see a mid-sized artist at a venue that you love, but because the venue can only hold 50% of its normal capacity or less, you have to pay the money that will cover the cost of all those tickets that it can't sell. So instead of paying $25 to see someone, you might end up paying $100, because the venue needs to make money and they need to be able to pay their staff in order for these shows to make sense to them. Not to mention paying the artists who are risking their lives to tour around the country. And again, we run into the issue that it just isn't scalable for most artists. If you're a small to mid-level band, you are already catching grief when you try to sell tickets for $30 or $40 or even $50. Imagine having to double or triple the cost of your tickets in order to help the venues that are hosting your shows cover the bills. That's a big ask of fans, but there are a large number of artists who can probably pull it off, and it will probably become a viable solution in the fall, at least for certain musicians. The fourth solution only works during certain times of the year. That would be late spring, summer, and early fall. But there could be a lot of opportunities there if the money is available. That would be free concerts hosted in public spaces that are socially distanced, where the bill is covered by cities or some other organization. So generally speaking, a lot of cities have funding for summer or spring events, outdoor public events. You can petition the city to get a little bit of that money and you can throw an event. Now, it's very possible to do these and pay musicians. However, again, we run into the same problem that not everyone is comfortable going outside. Not everyone is comfortable being in large groups right now. And in order to justify an artist traveling city to city, you're going to need a lot of these events all lined up in a certain region or in a certain series of states that the artist can easily move between as they try to get across this country. And if the cities are covering it, the cities need money to pay for it. But as we've learned as a result of the coronavirus in recent months, at least here in the United States, cities are hemorrhaging money because there is no tourism. There's no paying for parking because there's nothing going on in these downtown spots, and there are people being laid off. There's just a lot of problems with cities having funds to spend on things like concerts right now, especially when you don't know how many people are going to show up, and it might be hard to justify certain artists performing at these events. So again, we're running into the same problem. It just doesn't scale for all genres. The fifth solution is the one that would probably work for the most musicians, but is honestly the worst possible idea. It's honestly the worst thing that we could do right now, but I'm absolutely certain that it's being discussed because I see it happening online already. And that is to just throw care to the wind. You know, throw out social distancing, don't require masks, allow people to choose whether or not they want to risk their lives by attending a concert in the age of the coronavirus. And now we've seen photos online of concerts that have been happening in places where they have very lax restrictions and they fill up with people. There's clearly a demand for live concerts. But when you do these events and people risk their lives by attending them, it's not just the people paying a ticket that are agreeing to risk their lives. It's the performers, and more importantly, it's the staff of the venue. So yes, we could just open up all the venues and we could just say, have at it. If you want to go see an artist, understand that there are risks involved with being in large groups right now, but you can go to that concert. And I assume that at least to some level, a lot of people would probably go for it. But they might be endangering those who don't have the ability to choose whether or not they want to risk their lives. Because employees at venues often are people making minimum wage or slightly more who are really dependent on those paychecks. So if that venue is going to host shows again, that person's going to need their job. They need to make money. So they're going to risk their lives so that you can have a good time. And that's not really a proposition that I would want for myself, and I don't want to put someone else in that position. But, you know, there's a will and there's a way. Right now in Michigan, for example, there's a show happening in Flint, Michigan on the 4th of July at a house featuring 6 bands performing over what I only assume is 8 hours or more in a house. So the DIY scene is already starting to kickstart this again. They're saying, you know what? We're going to risk it. We're going to play a show. People should take all the precautions they can, but we're going to move forward. And I think because people are sick of lockdown, they're sick of quarantine, they're sick of feeling like they can't do anything, more and more people will be okay to take these risks. But we shouldn't be forcing those who don't have an option in the situation to do so because they have to feed their families. That's just not fair to them, and it really shows a lack of humanity on the part of all of us that want to go to shows. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, there's no real good answer here. And that's kind of the point I'm getting at. We all want music to return to normal. We all want life to return to normal. But as I recently saw someone say online, the likelihood that the world ever looks like it did before March of 2020 again is slim to none. We're in a new reality. And it's going to take some time for the things that we really love about society, primarily entertainment, to become a normal part of our lives that we don't think too much about. Because a few months ago, we just assumed that every artist that's able to tour would be touring in perpetuity until they or us die. That's just how it works. But that's not the case anymore. Artists are being forced to adapt, fans are being forced to adapt. And until we figure out a way that ensures everyone's safety, doesn't force people into compromising positions, and keeps costs low enough for small and mid-level artists to succeed, we're not going to have a solution that pleases everybody. People are going to keep trying things, and hopefully some of them continue to work, like drive-in concerts or socially distanced events indoors. But the massive amount of artists around the world are just going to have to wait until that first option, the vaccine, is readily available. And that might take some time, but hopefully, if they're good at engaging with their audience and writing great music and using this time to really build up who they are as musicians and what their message is and how much content they have out in the world, well, then the fans are going to be ready to welcome them back. I know I am, and I hope you will be too. And if you're just desperate to get your fix of music, well, don't worry, there's a lot of it available online. There's still live streams happening around the clock, and websites like Metal Sucks have started to put together amazing calendars so you can keep track of all the events happening. We're also going to be giving you a ton of content right here at MusicBiz. So if you haven't done so already, click the subscribe button down below. We'd love to have you join us on this adventure through the music business, because there's a lot happening right now. It's changing every single day, and if not that, then at least every single week. And we want to keep you in tune. We want to keep you up to date. We want to help you navigate these crazy times. So click that button. And if you've already done so, you have my sincerest thanks. And the only thing I have left to say is how we end every episode. And that is to just ask that you take care of yourself, because you deserve it.